Cafe Cabaret. This is The Wrong Hero in a presentation entitled The Republic in Peril. Now, I had a nicer sign than this, but my girlfriend tore it up because she was jealous because I was spending so much time doing this instead of paying attention to her. So, welcome to the program, which probably means I'm going to have to move out of my apartment. The Wrong Hero in The Republic in Peril on Cafe Cabaret. Hi, I'm the Wrong Hero. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their party. That's not really what I wanted to say. I just want to see if my typewriter is working. Hi, I'm the Wrong Hero, and I'm running for President of the United States. My motto in this race can be summed up in 7 words. All for one and all for me. Now, pay close attention because this is about as coherent as I am going to be all evening. As candidate for the United States presidency, I declare before the eyes of Almighty God that you'll never catch me with my pants down because I'm not wearing any. As your candidate for the highest office of the greatest country on earth, I will never stand up here with sneaky, underhanded attacks on my opponent. I'll make them anonymously on the telephone. As your president, I promise my first act in office will be to give an official presidential pardon to anyone who has ever laughed at any one of my jokes. And if you haven't actually committed any crimes and aren't currently in prison, then think of it as a get-out-of-free card. By the way, I should mention my corporate PAC, the Yellow Jacket Soda people. I call them my corporate PAC. They didn't actually contribute any money. I just cashed in some empty deposit cans for 20 cents, and then I got an extra 3 cents that was lying on the counter. Yellow Jacket Soda. When you want to attract yellow jackets to your picnic, then think of the can with the bright orange and black logo. Its sickly sweet syrup is specially formulated to attract yellow jackets, bees, wasps, stinging insects, and other insect pests. So, when you're on a picnic, think Yellow Jacket Soda. Anyway, back to the script. As president, I promise to empty the White House of every piece of historical junk the other presidents have put there, the other stupid presidents have put there, and sell it to our nation's enemies at rock-bottom prices. As a matter of fact, I will replace the Bill of Rights with the Bill of Wrongs as your president. I will sell Hawaii back to Japan, Alaska back to Russia, and the Louisiana Purchase back to France, and portions of it back to Spain. Yes, it will be a busy first day in the Oval Office when you elect me your Commander-in-Chief. Now, I may play a little game of soccer with the nuclear football, but don't worry. I'll wear steel-toed boots so I don't hurt my ankles. Now, as president, I will appoint Forrest Gump as our Secretary of State. If elected president, I will promise you one thing. I am not a crook, but I got some boys on my staff who are. If elected, I promise my inaugural speech will be one long, incoherent rant, knocking the crumbs what done me dirt, and plugging the fat cats that slipped me hefty manila envelopes bursting at the seams with slush money. I promise, as president, that the halls of Congress will run red with the blood of my slain foemen. Though, for the most part, I'll try to take it outside because them bloodstains are hard to get off of marble. And I got a buyer in Italy who wants to purchase the whole Capitol dome. As president, I promise to rid this country of insect pests because I don't want you to have nothing. Furthermore, I promise that when I sit down to negotiate with the Russians and the Chinese, the first words out of my mouth will be, I am afraid of you burly men. As president, I will not be an albatross around your necks. I will be a millstone. If, as your president, I fail to do what I promise, then tough luck. I'll be holding the whip hand, you filthy monkeys. I'll be the man with the fuzzy nuts once I dupe you into handing me the keys to the White House. However, I promise, if elected, to always leave the seat up in the White House bathroom. As president, I promise to listen very carefully to my opposition and then spread ugly rumors about them. In my presidency, I pledge to outstupid the village idiot. I will be the global village idiot. As president, I promise, during important ceremonies of state, to be snappish and weepy. I promise to respect the rights of the minority, then turn around and do what I damn well please. As president, I will ignore the talented, reward cronyism, make everybody's decisions for them, and nationalize the Cosa Nostra and the Masons. I will declare a culture war, not out of any sense of conviction, but because I like the way it sounds. And I promise you, I will always be consistent in the way I screw things up as President of the United States. My first instinct will always be to lie, but I will also be careful not to get caught. Always. I will also be careful, always, to parrot my nonsensical pet theories, use lots of big words that I don't know the meaning or pronunciation of, or is that pronunciation? Listen attentively to my corporate masters, follow every blip in the polls, and bureaucratize everything in sight. But to do it in an endearing, aw shucks sort of way that will make me popular with everybody. And as always, I will hold myself exempt from any moral standard. I will do everything in my considerable power to make the grand institution of the presidency the object of ridicule and mockery. I will embrace the idiocies of the majority, flatter them for their stupidities, and seek out scapegoats to pin the blame on when the people of this great and charitable nation are forced to suffer the consequences of their rash and impulsive prejudices. I plan to study everything the average man is ignorant of, but also to studiously ignore the counsels of the learned. As president, I promise, in the words of Ambrose Bierce, to be fierce as a fever, pitiless as the grave, blind as a stone, and irrational as a headless hen. As president, I pledge to respond to pointed questions with irrelevant stories. In the presence of Damoclean swords, I will peddle shoddy scabbards at a hefty premium. For example, Star Wars. I will not be in the White House for you. You will be my vassals and work to curry my favor, sedulously aping my mannerisms in the vain hope that I will respond to your needs. It will be my needs, however, which will always be paramount. As president, I will charm you like an Indian faker charms a snake and hypnotize you with how nimbly I can bob and weave. As president, I will be number 2 in corrosive cynicism to no man, not even members of the press. As president, I will wallow in self-absorbed despair and depravity. In other words, I'll be my usual self. I will agree with you on everything, promise you everything, and give you nothing. Or maybe not. We'll cross that bridge to the future when we get to it. As candidate for the highest office of the greatest country in the land, this is what I believe. Democracy is a clumsy word. Perhaps we should replace it with something more musical, something which rolls trippingly off the tongue, like an all-powerful oligopoly run, incidentally, by me. And when that time comes, when I am able to crown myself monarch, I will not listen to your pleas, for to me they are inauthentic. My needs are the only ones I consider valid. As president, you will never catch me licking whipped cream from the chests of two women with enormous cleavage. And if you do, it will be proof positive of the fact that, in spite of my crusty exterior, as a matter of fact, I do care. Salman Rushdie has said that free speech is the freedom without which all other freedoms would fail. I'd like to thank him for that insight, for I have recently decided that, therefore, under my regime, since free speech is the freedom without which all other freedoms would fail, under my regime, free speech will be the first thing to go. But I will never institute a reign of the thought police. None of you have any ideas worth suppressing. And you are all expendable. So my advice to you is to keep your eye on the ball, whatever the hell that means. In this race for president, I may lose, but I will have made an important statement that basically I'm a loser. But actually, I intend to win. To do so, I will purge all pragmatists from positions of power in my campaign organization. For that matter, I'll purge the radicals too. As a matter of fact, when it comes to the apportionment of power, I will purge everyone but myself. Not out of malice, but because I like to use the word purge. In this election, I want moderates and centrists to stay home. On election day, I'd actually like everybody to stay home. I'd be perfectly happy to be elected solely on the basis of my single and solitary vote. As your candidate, I will never ask you to swallow something that's not good for you. Of course, that's the same promise I make to my dog when I feed her the heartworm medicine. Come here, girl. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come on. Get up on the sofa. Get up on the sofa. Come on. Come here. Come on. Come here, girl. Come here. And that is how I will talk to the American people. Come here. No, 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 no. Come over here. Get over here. I said get over here. Come on. Come here. Come here. Come here. No, no, no. Yeah. Come here. Come here. Get up here. There we go. You love me, don't you? Come here. As your candidate, as your president, I will never ask you to vote for something that isn't good for you. I'll just go ahead and do as I please and not trouble you by asking for your advice. As president, one of my many mottos will be, I will accomplish very little, and what I do attempt to do will not make any sense. Not exactly up there with Wayne, Weedy, Weechy, but what do you want from me? Leave me alone. I've been sick. You would not believe I didn't get any sleep last night. And then my girlfriend comes in at like 7:30 in the morning asking why I ignored her all last night. Because I was up writing this speech. What are you writing? I'm not going to tell you. Why? Well, I just don't want to tell you. Basically, my impulse will be to do it if I think I can get away with it. In such a way, I will conduct affairs of state if elected as your president. And if you're lucky, you'll read about it the next day in the newspapers. If you're lucky, there still will be newspapers. Anyhow, I see this presidential race as a movie. Scene 1, Inauguration Day. The wrong hero is sworn in as president. Scene 2, cut to mushroom cloud. Now, we all know, or at least we should, that we're all here for the same reason, to worship me. Now, call me an outsider. Better yet, call me a far outsider. But don't put me in the straitjacket of radical extremism. A regular straitjacket will do quite nicely, thank you very much. Now, at this time, I would like to say this. I am a foster child of the special interests. They have thoroughly neglected me, even though I am pathetically eager to do their bidding and satisfy their every depraved whim. Furthermore, I am inflexibly pugnacious, but I can change that, and I'll fight the first man that says different. I'm also kind of like Moses in reverse. I may not lead you to the promised land, but I hope to get there myself. Now, I promise, if elected, to look frantically busy while accomplishing nothing. In other words, if I'm elected, it will be business as usual in Washington, D.C. Now, I promise in this speech to give a 2-hour harangue without one good soundbite. How am I doing so far? As your president, I promise to combine the raw intelligence of Dan Quayle, the compassion of Phil Graham, the articulateness of Bob Dole, the level-headedness of Jack Kemp, the animation of Al Gore, and the one-track mind of President Bill Clinton. Actually, I have 5 points to make in this race, and here they are. 5 points to make, and here they are. A, E, I owe you nothing. And sometimes why? Why? I don't know. Don't bother me. You know, I don't really want to be president. I just want to be profiled in The New Yorker. But being president is second best. I want you to know that I'm not really staring at you. I'm just trying to figure out how much money you'll give me. To that end, I will not bore you with information. I will inflame you with illogical appeals to your emotions. I hope at some future time to be rewarded, not for my opinions which shift with the winds, but for the vehemence with which I hold them. Now, I may need your vote, but that doesn't mean I'm going to let you get too close to me. It may well be that the vulgar mob is smarter than me, but I'll do my level best to represent them all the same. And I'm sure they'll do their best to resent me. Now, if I had one wish, I think I would wish that the government would disappear, but not before they give me all their money. For after all, if our government must squander money, why not squander it on me? You know, looking back on the grand sweep of American history, I like to remember the leaders of yore. Eisenhower's shiny bald head, John F. Kennedy's refusal to wear hats, LBJ's appendicitis scar, Nixon's resentful snarl, Ford's oafishness, Carter's fear of rabbits, Reagan's glistering gaze of incomprehension, George Bush's reedy voice, Bill Clinton's compulsive snacking. Yes, it's a great panorama of American presidents. Looking back then on our great history, I like to think of my slogan, the wrong hero. He wants to be president because it sure beats working. But I want you all to know that I'm qualified to be your president, not because of the credentials I don't have, but because of the opinions I can't back up with facts. But then again, facts are boring and time-consuming. And so is this speech. So be it. I guess that's why my favorite note on the scale has always been me, me, me. And my motto has been more me. So I promise, if elected, not to govern for the media, but for me. I believe that to inform is to bore, and to shock is to succeed. Now, I don't want to govern as the helpless pawn of corporate elites. I would rather be a helpful pawn. Some of you may be saying, vote, why bother? I say unto you, brethren, vote for me, and don't bother me. Let me also say this. My vice president will not be a lapdog. My vice president will be a German shepherd. Come here, girl. Here's my vice president. I don't know if you can see her. Probably not. Come here. Come here. Hey, come here. That's just how most presidents talk to their vice presidents, by the way. Come here. Come here. Hey. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Hell with you. I am on the side of the American people. You believe me, don't you? Now, I am not so desperate to gain power that I will promise anything to win. I promise you. But make me an offer and we'll see what we can do. My candidacy will be simple, loud, and vulgar, and so will my promises, and so will the rest of this speech. Now, in this presidential race, I stand at the intersection of narrative and culture. And I'm about to get steamrollered by a mixed metaphor, so I think I'll move. Now, I wouldn't mind if people continued to be miserable for a little while longer. I promise that if they turn to me, they may still be miserable, but at least they'll know why. Oh, this is a pretty boring speech. You know, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, that always jazzes things up. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, whoa, what's that? Whoa, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, whoa. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was Dr. Win the War. I'll be Dr. Armageddon at your service. I say to you now that cynicism is corrosive. Cynicism accomplishes nothing, but cynicism sure is fun to watch. Now, superstitious prejudices blind us to reality, but they sure are a whole lot of fun to listen to and a whole lot easier to understand. If elected, I'll treat you like mushrooms. I'll keep you in the dark and I'll feed you a load of crap. Now, in earlier speeches, I have said that politics is sports for people who are too fat to run. I say to you today that politics is judo for people who are too embarrassed to be seen wearing them skimpy outfits. Now, basically, I'm more interested in playing hardball politics than discussing the issues. After all, who isn't? I would rather be ironic than rational. I would rather treat politics as a glib circus than as an informed debate. I would rather try to give one easy explanation for all our problems than offer a concrete solution to even one simple problem. At this time, I propose to form a new party, the Cleanup Party. I'll give myself one term to clean up the mess in Washington, and then I'll give myself another term just to enjoy myself as a reward for having cleaned up Washington in my first term. My message to the electorate can be summed up in 6 words. You're beginning to get on my nerves. What's that? It's 7 words? See what I mean? I promise to pretend to be interested in what the electorate has to say, even though I'm not. In this race, I will always try to be polite, but that doesn't mean I'll be nice. Look at this fucking hat. Cynical complacency never works, and I promise I will never be cynical or complacent unless I can get away with it, and I believe I can. I may talk too slowly and look too old. I know that, but I can balance a biscuit on my nose and swallow it with one bite. And so can my vice president, the German Shepherd. Actually, she's the one who taught me that little trick. Come here. Come here. Come here, damn it. There she is. Another one of my mottos in this election is, look at my shouting head. Now, to prove that I am one of you, I will eat a 12-pack of hot dog buns soaked in log cabin syrup. Another trick I learned from my vice president, the German Shepherd. That's a hell of a campaign photo, isn't it? I would like to say, in a forthright and honorable fashion, that I have neither character nor vision, and the only reason I admit this is that I know that nobody cares. Now, I don't mind being the only member of the Cleanup Party, also known as the Wrong Hero Party. That simply means that I'll get all of my party's votes. Now, if there's anyone out there still listening, let me tell you this. I will sell you scary fantasies. After all, it is nearly Halloween. I hope you're videotaping this, because I know you're not going to sit through all this in one sitting, but you may want to videotape it and then glean over the transcript for those little gems that come popping up at you every now and then. As your president, I will prefer rhetoric to reason. I will speak in one individual voice as the Republic's nemesis. For the Republic is in peril, and I am the Republic's nemesis. And I will refuse the support of political consultants, not one of whom will agree to advise me, especially for what I'm offering to pay them, which is nothing. Nothing but ingratitude. In my campaign, I promised to make Dick Morris look like a priest and Ed Rollins look like a panty waist. I'll out-Frankenstein Bob Dole. I'll out-Sugar Bear Bill Clinton. I'll make Ross Perot look like a Jesuit. I'll make Al Gore look like Plastic Man. I'll make Jack Kemp look like a 12th level intelligence. In this race, I'll make Elf Landon look hotter than a $2 firecracker. I'll make Tom Dewey look like a real live wire, and I'll make Mike Dukakis look like a party animal. And I will say the same thing over and over so many times, you'll think I'm reenacting Bill Murray's role in Groundhog Day. And I promise I won't listen to your concerns. I'll preach. And I also promise that even though I am money hungry and weak, I am neither a journalist nor a politician. Now, I know you have a low boredom threshold now. Now that's okay. But I intend to talk on and on. It's been half an hour. It'll probably be another half an hour more. No, actually, it's going to be another 90 minutes. So, this is the time to run really quick to the bathroom. And if you have a bladder the size of a pea, then you can probably go to the bathroom in this interim. And, well, anyway, maybe I'll get me some more of that there coffee there. Yeah, that's right. And I'll leave that. Whoa! I just destroyed my speech. Now I got to start all over again. I'll leave the camera running. Give you a chance to take a break there. And who knows? I mean, you can spend this time admiring Vice President German Shepherd here, if you wish. That's right, Vice President. There she is. There she is, Miss Vice President German Shepherd. That's right. She's a female. Now, who says females can't govern? Not me. I'm not prejudiced. So have a good look at your new Vice President. She doesn't say much, but when she does speak, the whole neighborhood knows it, and so do all the dogs in the neighborhood. Now, here's how you speak to a faithful Vice President. Oh, pretty girl, I despise you. You're spineless and weak. See, it doesn't matter what you say, it just matters how you say it. Now, where was I? Yes. I promise you that I have no real agenda other than to aggrandize myself at the expense of every other human being on the planet. No, I have no real agenda. No, for that matter, I have no real gender. Incidentally, my apartment smells like Frankenstein's boudoir. By the way, speaking of the undead, you might not like Bob Dole and Jack Kemp, but it's not as bad as it could be when you consider that they're just a light version of Phil Grams and Steve Forbes. Now, if I'm elected, I promise I'll kiss your ass, the better to piss on your toes. Now, I am not a moderate. I do nothing in moderation. Where I come from, if you're in the middle of the road, you're a roadkill. Anyway, if I'm elected, I promise I won't forget the little people. On Inauguration Day, I'll change my name to President Dogcatcher. I will say this, just like most of you, I care deeply for poor people. I just don't want to have to look at them, just like most of you. So I promise, if elected, to replace homeless shelters with heartless shelters, where people can go to hide from the homeless. Of course, a great many localities already have them. They're called suburbs. Now, NAFTA and the GATT Treaty are chicken feed. I say to you that I won't rest until the United States is a banana republic with maquiladoras from border to border. I guess that makes me a banana Republican. As president, I won't put in long hours memorizing the names of world capitals. I'll just undermine the federal capital in Washington, D.C. Now, why am I running for president? Well, they never gave me any attention as a kid. But when I'm president, they'll have to pay attention, won't they? As president, I'll make a big deal about being very nice to disguise the fact that there's not a kind bone in my body. Actually, there was one, but I broke it myself in the interests of consistency. As president, I will crush my foes with niceness. By the way, based on my experience, I'd like to share a blinding insight. If you stare at the sun too long, you'll burn your retinas. Anyway, let me say this. I will be altruistic if it pays off. My political philosophy is concise, unlike this speech. Like most Americans, I think Washington has too much power, and like most Americans, I think the government should do something about it. I believe that Washington, D.C. is ugly, extravagant, corrupt, promiscuous, drunken, sycophantic, tyrannical, and harebrained. That is why I am so reluctant to go there. But I will, for your sake, master my revulsion with firm resolve and somehow manage to thrive in that atmosphere, albeit reluctantly, if elected as your president. I will break the power of Washington, D.C. into 1,000 pieces, the better to hide it and then master it in secret. In this presidential race, I will not stoop to smear my opponents with lies and innuendos. I will smear them with whipped cream. I like innuendos, but I love whipped cream. As president, I will not sell my services to the highest bidder. I'll give them away for non-monetary favors and avoid a paper trail. In attacking my opponents, I will not use the sweeping generalization or the half-veiled insinuation. I'll simply lie through my teeth at all times. Now, this race is about money, politics, immorality, and power. And I love them all. And apropos of nothing, if you drop the A and the R and added an X, an American would be a Mexican. American, Mexican, you see what I'm getting at? And while we're on this topic, I suggest we freeze all legal immigration. Of course, if they're Canadians, that won't be hard to do. They're already half frozen. Anyway, I may be the most obscure candidate you've never heard of, but there's one nice thing about being the most obscure candidate in the race. Nobody bothers to attack you. Anyway, I refuse to swim in political sewage. I'll wait until it freezes over and walk on it. As president, I promise more social justice and no money to implement it. I promise to never cough or shift my feet, except when reporters are interviewing me. As president, I will not force you to choose between idiocy and ideology, for I will embody both. In running this race, I have no enemies, except in the center and on the left and right. Remember Lamar Alexander? He was Wendell Willkie to Clinton's FDR. Well, I'm more like Henry Wallace to Clinton's Harry Truman. Remember, too, my strengths are your weaknesses and vice versa, whatever that means. Anyway, I figure that if I go belly up in politics, as seems increasingly likely, at least I'll get to appear on talk shows, if only as a ranting, disembodied voice, bellyaching about imaginary grievances before having my microphone unceremoniously shut off. Anyhow, my motto is, let's talk nonsense to the American people. Everybody else does. Why buck a trend? Actually, I have only one thing to ask of the voting public. Please don't distract me in my quest for supreme power and complete control. Because basically, the less you know about me, the better off you'll be. And if I wear a mask, it distracts you from the fact that I haven't shaved lately. Besides, I don't want you looking into my eyes It's undignified that you should be able to tell when I'm lying. In this election, I pledge to run a clean campaign because nobody expects me to. I pledge to run a clean campaign just to spite the media. I must say I take myself even more seriously than the journalists who consistently ignore me take themselves. My laziness in running this race, by the way, is matched only by my incompetence. Covering my campaign is like being stalked by a madman in a merry-go-round. For I embody the voice of raw populism, our founding fathers dreaded. Now, if I fail to triumph in this race, I'll run for governor of Idaho or Wyoming, where I'll fit right in with all the other bitter hermits and loners. And let's not forget Montana. Anyway, I must commend the American people for their refusal to flock to a complete unknown, like me, when there are so many other incomplete unknowns for them to partially ignore, like Ralph Nader and Harry Brown, the Libertarian candidate, and the guy who's running on the Natural Law Party platform, and then there's the Taxpayers Party with Howard Phillips, and you could stick them all in a slow boat to China, and it wouldn't make one whit, tit, or jottle of difference. Speaking of being ignored, I'm not trying to challenge the status quo. I'm trying to ignore it. And it's returning the favor. For if the worst sin in politics is being boring, then I can't go any lower. And if the second worst sin in politics is intolerance, then I've got that one covered too. In this race, I am a creature of the anti-establishment, staggering to the finish line due to my own utter lack of organization, imagination, and charisma. An important factor in this race is scruples. I haven't got 'em. There is no rhyme or reason to my speeches, more like mime and treason. I am writing this speech without apparent effort, and it shows. In this race, I have found that rib-tickling arrogance makes up for a lot of cold, hard facts. Now, you can count all my tiny lies on the fingers of one hand. I favor the big lie. I will say this. I never hit the panic button, except when I can't find it. In fact, I never panic at all, except in a minor crisis. It's not that I don't understand what's going on in society. It's just that I just don't care. Besides, if you're like most Americans, and who isn't, then you're probably just like everybody else. You don't care about my ideas. You just want to hear about how I'm prepared to bribe you, and how soon. Well, I have this to say to my opponents. Gentlemen, start your enigmas. As for me, I'm prepared to talk about the fact that I have ideas. I just don't care to discuss the ideas themselves, because I really don't have any ideas, as I have demonstrated throughout the course of this speech. In this race, I'm not going to kiss your feet. I'm going to chill your butt. I'm not going to change my speech to suit political columnists. I believe political columnists are the lowest form of animal life, next to me. As president, I want what works and what's fair for me. By the way, I'm not trying to handicap this race, but Bob Dole is toast if he can't carry Michigan. And believe me, it's hard. I tried to carry Michigan, and I almost gave myself a hernia. But let's get back to my main talking point. Me. I speak for the resentful and powerless, for I am one of them. In my psyche, two factions are at war, wishy and washy, Tweedledum and Tweedledummer. I have two devils on my shoulder. One's a good devil. The other one's just a fucking devil, I guess. I don't know. Beats the hell out of me. But my campaign is not conventional. My ambitions are not conventional. Most of all, my behavior is not conventional or even sane. I don't have any fixed ideology. Ideology is whatever I say. So there. But I will say this. I miss the Cold War. Let's bring it back. Jousting with the Russian bear will distract the American people from their incompetent leaders, whose gross incompetence I intend to replace with my own once I'm elected. To quote now from the Declaration of Independence. We are dedicated to the preposition that. Well, my motto is, if it ain't broke, why not? Destroy it at once. Guards, guards. As I have said before, I refuse to handicap this race, but Bill Clinton is toast if he can't win the suburban vote. And if he wins Ohio, it's all over. Of course, if I won Ohio, I'd take it back to the store and try to exchange it for Indiana or even Nebraska. I'd like to remind you, Halloween is coming up in a few days, so why not vote for me? Now, some say the only thing the wrong hero should run for is the insane asylum. I'll kill them all. Some say I'm only in this race as a spoiler. Well, not only as a spoiler, because actually I'm rotten to the core. Now, in this race, I promise my body language will express the way I truly feel about the voters. Stay away, you filthy monkeys! You garlicky mob! Back! Get back! Back, I say! Back! As you have undoubtedly noticed, I do not give speeches full of witty one-liners. I give speeches full of half-liners because I'm a half-wit. And here are a few of my favorites. What this country needs, these kids today. The more things change, may God strike me down. And my all-time favorite, who do you think you are around here? Joe Shit the Ragman? In this race, I have more grievances than ideas. In fact, all of my ideas are, in fact, merely expressions of my grievances. So, now I'd like to take a moral stand on the central issue of the day. me. Basically, I'm into politics because my source for real drugs has dried up. Now, I say that integrity and principle matter more than politics. But that's too much trouble. I'll stick to politics. Now, some say that this election is about many things. Young people, values, honesty, decency, self-reliance, jobs, family, leadership, sending power back to the states, yada, 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 yada. But I maintain that this race is about one thing and one thing only: electing me. Now, my motto in this race is sapere aude. I think it means something like have the courage to know or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, who cares? The poet has said, "How can men die better than facing fearful odds for the ashes of their fathers and the temples of their gods?" Well, actually, I can think of several better ways to die, most of them involving bimbos and illegal narcotics. But, yes, I have a great deal of respect for voters. I say, voters are not fools, and I am not a fool. I am not a fool, but I play one on TV. My friends, let me ask you, can you filter out bogus candidates? No? Then vote for me. Now, some say, find the good and praise it. I say, find the good and cash in on it. I am the wrong hero, but you can call me Mr. Angry. My job is to goose the body politic. I believe that this race is about what it's about, whatever that means. But from my point of view, it's about me. For I am a king, not a prophet. I am indecent, highly partisan, and still I manage to be ineffectual. A very neat trick. Like many New Englanders, I dislike the federal government. Of course, like many New Englanders, I also dislike the electorate in the rest of the country as well. In fact, like many New Englanders, I also dislike many New Englanders. Furthermore, I am so accustomed to lying that I do it even when I'm telling the truth, like I am now. Besides, I offer something more important than the truth. I offer chewing gum. Now, here's what I believe. Like Dick Morris, I want to get America back on its feet, or at least to suck its toes. Like Jack Kemp, I want to get the government off our backs and put a cute little monkey there instead. Like Bill Clinton, I'm in favor of the ordinary American because he's easy to fool with false promises. I want less interest on our bank loans and more interest in funding my campaign. I want more cops in your neighborhood and none at all in mine, thank you very much. I want to end vicious stereotypes because all bigots are the same. I am either for or against virtually everything. So in my candidacy, there's something for everyone and nothing for nobody. I will not dignify my opponents. What are they paying that PR man for? Why should I dignify them? Let their PR people do it. Well, as we reach the closing week of the campaign, there's still a lot of work yet to be done. But I'm tired and I'm not feeling so good. get someone else to do it because I'm going Betty by. Actually, I'm running to be anti-president, the most powerless man on earth. But I think Vice President Gore kind of beat me to it. At this time, I would like to give an invocation, but I must decline because I do not want television cameras to record me in communion with my God. Hey, turn that off. As for special interests, I'm against them. Unless they benefit me directly. You know, running for the presidency is like a drug, only I forget why. Also, I'm too stupid to know what's impossible, and you probably are too, which is how I expect to win. Now, I want you to always remember, no matter how strangely I act in the days to come, I just do what the gun tells me to do. For I am empowered by my own corruption. Pretty convenient, huh? For I believe that soil is the basis of all human life. So I don't bathe. I cry every day. It's the only way I wash my face. As president, I promise to solve every problem that nobody wants to see solved. If elected, I promise to pay off my debts to the mob. I promise, too, I don't feel your pain. I just had a few drinks and I'm feeling no pain, I promise you that. I'm running a money, who me? What money? What is money campaign. Because I'm poor. I come from a poor town, a conservative town. In restaurants, you had to order your steaks communist blood red, but they had no steaks because it was a poor town. I used to go next door and say, "Can I borrow a cup of paste? Never mind the cup, I'll eat it here," because it was a poor town. And the reason I'm really running for president is to impress the girls in high school who wouldn't let me take them out on dates. Of course, I went to an all-male boarding school, so that made it even worse. I want those of you who are tired of me and my interminable speech, which is only halfway through, to take comfort in the fact that I am an unsustainable trend. I can't go on forever. It only seems like forever. Now, you may be frightened of blind, insensate political forces, but I'm in favor of them. For blind, insensate political forces, like me, are the wave of the future. I believe that the Cold War was our Spanish Inquisition, and that untold harm resulted from the atrocities committed in its name. And if years later we're still paying the price of the Cold War, our Spanish Inquisition, then hear my plea. Let me be your Torquemada. When I began this race, I went looking for a cross between fame and fortune, and I found it. It's called famine. Now, some say that a fundamental rule of politics is that you have to repeat your message 7 times before the audience understands it. Some say that a fundamental rule of politics is that you have to repeat your message 7 times before the audience remembers it. Some say that a fundamental rule of politics is that you have to repeat your message 7 times before the audience
remembers it. Now, some say that a fundamental rule of politics is that you have to repeat your message 7 times before the audience remembers it. Some say that the fundamental rule of politics is that you have to repeat your message 7 times before the audience remembers it. Some say a fundamental rule of politics that you gotta repeat the message 7 times before the audience understands it, whatever. Some say that a fundamental rule of politics is that you have to repeat your message 7 times before the audience remembers it. I know why you're all so upset. You wish that I would shut up. Well, let me tell you this. I'd rather be doing anything else right now. Talking to you uncomprehending bohunks is no picnic lunch with Bozo. I can assure you of that. I'm sorry if I'm using the name Bozo in vain. I know how much that upsets Larry Harmon, the real Bozo. Anyway, I don't have all the answers. I just claim to. But no, actually, I don't have all the answers. If I did, I wouldn't be wasting my time talking to the likes of you. I'd be making a killing in the commodities market, raking in the big bucks, and living the life of Riley. And he'd be living mine. Quite frankly, I'd rather be snacking on a wagon load of diseased army blankets because you people have the collective IQ of a ceiling fan. Compared to you, pond scum is John Paul Sartre. Now, it has been said by Vice President Alban Barkley, and what kind of a name is that? It has been said by Vice President Alban Barkley that the best audience is, quote, intelligent, well-educated, and a little drunk. Well, in your case, 1 out of 3 ain't bad, and that guy in the front row doesn't look a little drunk. He looks like a pretty big drunk to me. Anyway, anyone can give good advice. It takes a special individual, like me, to knowingly give bad advice. By the way, now that I've finally mastered my fear of public speaking, everyone is tired of looking at my face and sick of hearing my voice, including myself. You're not getting off that easy. I'm just going to pause momentarily. Well, I'm back. Whoops, just knocked my speech to the ground. Clumsy fool! Where was I? Who cares? Arrgh. If elected president, I promise not to appease inflation, but to embody it by refusing to go on a diet. Now, Ronald Reagan has said it was morning in America. I say it's half past the monkey's ass and quarter to its balls. Yes. I was reading the Boston Herald the other day. Actually, whatever it is that people do with the Boston Herald, I'm not sure it can be characterized as reading, but whatever it is you do with the Boston Herald, I was doing it. By the way, do you ever read the newspapers? Me neither. Anyway, who was it who said, let us never negotiate out of fear, let us never negotiate at all? Actually, I think it was me. Anyway, in the paper, they were talking about the special interests driving this presidential race. Well, in this race, I want you all to know that I have no special interests that I've sold my soul to, for I have no soul. And I would never sell my integrity for short-term gain.
unless I could find out in advance how much I could swindle the buyer for, and unless I can get the money in cash right now. The truth is, there are no major scandals in my career. I am not rich. I am bankrupt because of my compulsive gambling. Now, if elected, I think I might be able to give up my compulsive gambling, but the smart money is against it. If elected, I promise to reform our schools with tough love education, which is neither tough nor loving nor an education, except perhaps an education in how gullible you people can be and how you long for quick fix solutions to intractable problems. Now, in this race, I promise to be the molecule that taps the hate hormone. I promise to alter the Earth's orbit by building expensive and unnecessary dams. However, I promise that we'll all drown in a raging flood before our planet plunges into the sun and we're all burned to a crisp. Now, in America, we can all go as far as our God-given ability will take us, unless we're atheists. And then I guess we can all go as far as our lack of any supreme being or divine guidance can take us. If elected, I promise to give every one of you $100 in genuine counterfeit currency. Guaranteed 100% authentic or your money back. By the way, here comes the juicy part of my speech. The grand climax where I completely disintegrate and then go on for another 50 minutes. I am not mentally ill. There is no such thing, says Thomas Zatz, as mental illness. Of course, if you believe that, you must be crazy. I'm going to try a subliminal thing here. Don't listen. Don't listen. Don't listen. Not bad. Not bad. Anyway, as I look out on this sea of suffering and tormented faces, thank you. Your lack of enthusiasm is contagious. Anyway, I would like to tell you a little story. I was sad because I had no toilet paper. Then I met a man who was a complete asshole. These lengthy pauses come in handy when you don't know what you're going to say next. Anyway, back to my impoverished childhood, which I'm going to milk for every drop of sentiment that I can. Growing up, we didn't have Lincoln logs. We had Nixon logs. They fell apart under direct questioning. I'm thinking, what if I were one of those politicians who insults the audience's intelligence? Are you listening? Defo? Anyway, I believe in plain talk. I don't use props. Props are a crutch. But what if you use a crutch as a prop? Is it a prop or a crutch? Anyway, back to the main topic, this election. You thought I was going to say me, right? No, the main topic, this election. In this election, I stand courageously and foursquare against cradle robbers, axe murderers, kidnappers, porno kings, union bosses, crooks, poor folk haters,
farmer murderers, shooters of widows and orphans, well poisoners, charity hospital bombers, spitters on our heroic baseball umpires, rich enemies of our public schools, private bankers, Mexican debt cancelers, unemployment makers, communists, pacifists, depleted uranium munitions manufacturers, and drunken skunks who steal Gideon Bibles out of hotel rooms, and grocery clerks who put them vine-ripened stickers on them green tomatoes. Now, there's an old saying down south. If the hogs don't come when you holler suey, then something ain't kosher. Actually, that's not an old saying. I just made it up. Whoops. I accidentally showed you the secret gesture. Now I'm going to have to kill you all. Wait there, please. You know, I hate to have to do it, but you have crossed the forbidden territory of my mind. Oh, I'm starting to sober up now. And now you look terrible. Up until now, I have refrained from slandering my opponents or pointing out how much they resemble certain nearly defunct cereal mascots. For example, Ross Perot is Quisp, Bill Clinton is Boo Berry, and of course, Bob Dole is Frankenberry. And Ralph Nader kind of resembles Count Chocula. Anyway, now it's time to do the cornball recitative about how much I love America that the boys in the back room have cooked up for me. Here goes. I love America. Corn on the cob, the Mississippi River, smog, and all that other stuff. Whew, there. I'm glad that's over with. You know, but I do love America. I love its uniqueness, and I promise that after I'm elected president, you will all be required to dress like me. Seriously, though, this is a great land. To quote Robert A. Warren, in my lifetime, we have tolerated the economic and social devaluation of families, driven religion from public life, funded and encouraged welfare irresponsibility, permitted dumbed-down education, condoned the media's trash, voted for the excesses of government, and excused antisocial behavior by ignoring right and wrong. Unquote. And yet, some fools still insist that there's no such thing as progress. For the first time in our history, we have over 1 million people imprisoned in federal prisons, and yet some fools still insist that there's no such thing as progress. Now, I said before that I won't smear my Republican opponent, but did you know that in Persian, dole means penis, as does Dick Morris? Anyway, I love our free speech. I believe in the right of any American to say whatever he likes, but don't quote me on that. Now, some have said that I have a soft spot in my heart for Joe Stalin, but nobody can prove nothing. And some say that I have a Nazi graveyard in my cellar. But most of those brave soldiers were only following orders. I don't think it's fair to categorize them as Nazis. Now, this presidential race is not all about me. It's just mostly about me. Now, it may turn out that I'm actually far worse than the people I'm fighting. But you won't know for sure until after I take office, and by then, it'll be too late. Now, here are some more badly stitched together observations I'd like to share with you. I could have been a failure, but I wasn't bad enough. I came in second in a stupidity contest. Why? Because I was stupid. I had a hidden agenda, but now I can't find it. I'd like now to sing the theme song of my campaign. Ain't got no money, can't buy no grub, backbone and navel doing the belly rub. Now, I am not a dazzling orator who can make you cry, but if you don't vote for me, I'll cry right now. Now, I may look presentable, but wait until you smell my breath. By the way, in a recent survey, the 5 most corrupt countries for business practices were Indonesia, China, Pakistan, Venezuela, and Brazil. Well, I pledge to you here and now that I will never rest until the United States is #1 on that list. My motto in this race is, never let the story get in the way of a good truth. It's all in my book, The Autobiography of My Imaginary Friend. As president, my friends, I promise to make the tough decisions. As my good friend, Colonel Harlan Sanders, has said, the cluck stops here. Now, I won't ask you for love or money, but I will ask you this. Brother, can you paradigm? For verily, I say unto ye, consider the lilies of the field, they neither sow nor reap, yet Solomon, in all his glory, would probably be able to sell them on an open market and scoop up a pretty penny in the bargain. Now, some say I'm a lazy, shiftless, no good, slew-footed, happy-go-lucky, tap-dancing vagrant. But I've never tap-danced a day in my life. Anyway, one reason I'm the best candidate in this race is I have a knee-jerk scorn for politicians and for everyone else. You see, I'm the boy who put the pain in campaign. And now, let me say this, because there's no way you're going to stop me. This is the speech I'm going to give to Congress. Our common sense pioneer legacy fills me with a unique and optimistic pride that I would like to share as I discuss the challenge of peace and the duties of liberty amid the strife and turmoil of courage and prosperity. Our tough country is always ready to listen and learn its way to lasting reform and change. With the strength of its vision, our family of citizens believe in hard work and freedom and have a passionate commitment to lead the children to preserve our precious freedom and provide for our future prosperity and empowerment. Truly, this is the land of opportunity, of principle, of rights and duties, of building, of care, of help and good and success and choice and empowerment and fair competition and confidence and candor and initiative and other stuff and so forth. But we must be ever vigilant against the forces of stagnation and decay, which endanger us with failures and collapse. Corrupt, selfish radicals threaten, destructive, incompetent, unionized bureaucracies seek to mandate a wasteful status quo ante and make us all cry uncle. They impose their self-serving ideological cynicism and ride roughshod over flag, family, and children. These pessimistic traitors, with their smart aleck attitudes, with their shallow and intolerant greed, and their permissive beliefs, and machine politics run by pathetic bosses, disgrace us with their lies, betray us with their abuse of power, baffle us with their excuses and red tape, impose their bizarre schemes on our unwilling body politic. Our political wolves in sheep's clothing, and a lot of you are probably wondering when I am planning to finish this sentence. And to tell you the truth, I'm not so sure myself, but I will say this: someone will have to pay the consequences. So there. Now at this time, I would like to quote the mesmerizing words of Representative Joseph Kennedy. Oh, say, can you see by the star-spangled banner? Let me say this. Certain Republicans want us to return to the gold standard. Others want us to return to the God standard. I forget where I was going with this. Oh yeah, I say we restore the British pound sterling as our unit of currency and make Puritanism our official national religion. Now, the Pentagon wants to use depleted uranium in bullets and tank shells, but I say we go the one better. I say we give our enemies old army blankets infested with cholera, just like we did in the glorious days of 1763. Now, I'll admit, I may not be right, but I hope at least that I'm persuasive. I will say this: my dreams for America are as big as America, and they will probably disappear into an American-sized manhole. Now, some say a president elected from outside the two-party system would be a disaster, but what we got right now is a disaster. So any way you slice it, you lose. We lose. What we are faced with today is a nebulous disgruntlement. Elect me, and I promise your disgruntlement will be nebulous no longer. Helen Vendler has said that the beautiful is dangerous, irregular, and binary. Well, in my case, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And it was Michael Barone who said that many voters are attracted to a celebrity, someone known for achievements outside politics. Well, I would like to reverse that trend. I am not recognized for any achievement, either in or outside of politics. Now, in this country, to get press coverage, you have to be entertaining and controversial and repetitive and repetitive and repetitive. Apropos of this, historian Daniel Borston has said, "We are deceived and obstructed by the very machines we made to enlarge our vision. We are deceived and obstructed by the very machines we made to enlarge our vision. We are deceived and obstructed by the very machines we made to enlarge our vision." I don't know what he's moaning about. That doesn't sound like such an awful thing to me. I don't know about you. So far in this campaign, I've been hurting. But I'll tell you something. If I win this race, nothing will hurt, baby. Let's start all over again. I would like you to believe that this is a strong opening. This race is not about politics. It's about voting for me, voting for me, voting for me. Thank you. I would like you to believe that this is a strong ending. Is it over yet, you're probably wondering? Hell no. Let's see how much more time we got here. Huh? Let's see, 42, 52, 69, about half an hour left now. Yeah. You thought I was finished, didn't you? Okay, now I'm ready to really begin. The question in this race is, who's screwing who? Or should it be who's screwing whom? Doesn't matter. Answer, we are getting screwed and they're doing it. I regret that at this time I cannot be more specific. In this election, win or lose, I hope to make lots of new friends with my snappy slogan, "It would be stupid not to vote for me." In this race, I've got 3 things on my mind: winning this election, food, and sex. By the way, do any of you pretty girls out there want to go out to dinner and then have a roll in the hay with the future president? Call me. Leave your number at the TV station. I'll get back to you. I can encapsulate this feel-good philosophy of mine in 4 words. Vote for Hungry Johnson. After all, what's this election really about? It's about people arguing about gun control and horny guys looking for dates. Now, if I'm elected, I promise that cheap liquor will be made available and sold 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, in laundromats, hair salons, and bus terminals. That ought to be good for a few million votes down south, except in New Orleans, of course, where I believe they've already got that. Hi. I'd like to remind you that I'm the wrong hero. Men call me by many names, but please, my friends, let us not stand on ceremony. You may refer to me as the Golden Master. Now, one of the issues we've got to address in this race is controlling the excesses of tort law. By the way, I got a rather bad sunburn from being out on the campaign trail all day, and I'm wondering, can I sue the people who made the sun so hot? Well, let me say this. I'm fully aware that some of the things I say only resemble ideas, but at least I make an effort. I'd also like to say this. I want to destroy the power of corporations to control our dreams. But don't think for 1 minute that I'm hostile to big business. Where would I be without a convenient scapegoat to stand in opposition against? So in this race, I will not tolerate
nice distinctions. I prefer the nasty ones. After all, they say that any sentence with the word "they say" is already half a lie. And that's the truth. Now, I believe I am the best candidate because I can relate to the animal nature of the electorate. And make no mistake, you are all animals. Now, I may be a political hack, but at least I'm philosophical about it. In much the same way as Billy Bulger or Tip O'Neill. A great man once said, "If I am not great, I am nothing." Actually, I said it. But nobody cares what I say, so I said it. A great man said it, so you pay attention. Look at it this way. My current campaign is only a beta model. You know what I'm saying? It's like a prototype kind, you know? It's a working model, except it doesn't really work. It's sort of like a scale replica, right? Except that it's larger than life because I weigh so much. But anyway, in the year 2000, I'll be ready for the 20th century. Right now, I'm the candidate of the 90s, the 1890s. Say, what about that terror? You think we should go to war with Cuba? I'm wondering, this populism stuff, it ain't so bad. Maybe we should go to, go to the silver standard, get rid of all that gold lying around. And you think that women should be given the vote? I don't know. They've tried it out in some of the territories, and it seems to work okay. I'm not sure we should accept Oklahoma as a state. I mean, it's just a big Indian reservation, and what's there for us? And there aren't enough people in it to qualify. And gosh, this fashion of people with whiskers, I don't know. I think it's going to fade away in about 20 years, and everybody will be clean shaven. Anyway, millennium's coming up. Yep, yes sir. Yep, yuppers. They got them new automobiles and horseless carriages. Well, maybe someday they'll catch on, but I don't see them really making a big difference. They were talking about lighter than air flight, like not balloons, which we know work, but I mean, these aeroplanes that they're thinking of building. It sounds like a crackpot scheme to me. If God had meant for man to fly, I reckon he would have given him wings. Something else too. They ought to close the United States Patent Office because everything that's already been invented has already been invented. You know what I mean? There ain't going to be no more stuff, and that's just the way it is, I guess. Anyway. Yeah, 1896. What a year, I'll tell you. Won't see another one like that for quite a while. Okay, I can console myself with the following pitiful rationalization. If you fail to vote for me, it will only prove that I was right. Now, one of my opponents, Bill Clinton, is from Hot Springs, Arkansas. Hot Springs, Arkansas. Hot Springs. Now, judging from his predilection for sleazy assignations with raccoon-haired prostitutes in seedy motels, that's actually a pretty apt place of origin for him now, isn't it? Hot Springs, Arkansas. Hot Springs, Arkansas. Now, I said I wasn't going to smear my opponents in this election, but Hot Springs, Arkansas. Just think about it. Hot Springs. Bouncy, bouncy, bouncy. Hot Springs, Arkansas. I would now like to have the opportunity at this time to mention now, for those of you and to those of you who oppose my candidacy in no uncertain terms, that if I want any shit from you, I'll squeeze your head. Quote, unquote. As for the rest of you, I propose, as president, to enact superficial reforms which will dull your appetite for violent revolution. I cannot change single-handedly the culture of corruption that reigns in Washington, D.C. But at least I can try to learn as much as I can about it from the inside. In this race, I will settle for nothing less than complete victory. But I'm willing to compromise. Now, Alcoholics Anonymous has a motto: fake it till you make it. Needless to say, I know nothing of AA and the fine work they do, but I agree. At this point, I would lambaste the traitors on my staff, but I have no staff. I've been running this campaign from out of my hat. And if you've ever tried to accuse a top hat of treason, you know how difficult it is. We'll let the vice president wear the top hat for a while. There you go. How do you like that? People ask me, why are you really running for president, Wrong Hero? Well, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. For no man may know my true motives and continue to live. If elected, I propose to abolish chain gangs. They'll still have to wear their leg irons and break rocks in the hot sun. They just won't be connected by chains. Rubber bands, maybe. Or twine. Let me get back to you on that one. On ecological issues, I say, save the whales. Collect the whole set. I say, if Bill Clinton were at the crucifixion, he'd see it as a photo opportunity. And if Bob Dole were there, well, what am I saying? He was at the crucifixion. Do any of you remember the Captain Kangaroo show, which ran on television for 30 years? You know, the early morning show, they bring animals on and stuff, Mr. Green Jeans. Well, in this presidential race, I'm like Mr. Green Jeans. I've been shit on by over 10,000 different animals. Anyhow, to my opponents, let me say this. That's the result when cousins marry. And to my friends, I say, let's put a dog in the White House. Now, my friends say to me, you're not a dog. And my response to that is, I am a dog. Woof, woof. I'd like now to tell a cute little story. When I was a kid, I used to think the moon followed me around. I'd go out on walks with my father late at night, and I used to think the moon was following me around. Then I realized that it was following my father around because he owed it money. Now, I may never be famous, but maybe someday I'll be infamous. And you can take that to the bank, mister. Because my goal in this race is not to talk about issues. My goal is to poison the well of political discourse, or at least muddy up the water a tad. My goal is to sting like a bee and then die and then be brought back to life by a mad scientist as Frankenbee. I am completely detached from your petty concerns. And please believe I am sincere when I also mention that I just don't give a damn. I'm the Wrong Hero, but you might prefer to call me an intergalactic huckster. But I'd be saying something, you know. I am a member of the Yellow Party, also known as the Highlighter Party. I'm so eager to sell out for votes, I'll even promise to take a bath. Some say I'm a grinning liar, but I never grin. And if I had an official campaign song, I think it would go as follows. I can hear the grass grow, I can hear the grass grow, I see rainbows in the evening. Copyright 1968 by The Move. By the way, I misspoke myself when I said I went to Penn State. Actually, it was the state pen. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I am the personification of cardboard earnestness. One time, a heckler tried to attack me with a staple gun. Dun 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 dun. Some call me a mindless operative of the devil, but I know full well what I'm about. You know, this speech would be finished by now if I didn't have to pause so often for applause that never comes. Actually, this speech almost is over. 20 more minutes. I promise. 20 more minutes. And whatever I don't get to this week, I'll get to next week. I promise. Now, the other candidates claim to be tough on crime. Let me tell you something. I am a crime. In fact, I am crime. As for the fact that I'm trailing badly in this race, let me say this. I'd rather be a mile away from hell and heading out than 100 miles away and heading in. To repeat, I'd rather be a mile away from hell and heading out than 100 miles away and heading in. Actually, you know, hell's not such a bad place in the summer when there's no tourists. Now, some have asked whether I should be running for president at all. Well, I'll need more time to study that issue. You know, I try hard to believe in our leaders, but I'm sick of hearing the same name over and over, even when it's mine. Okay, here's where we stand. The Democrats look for things the government can do. The Republicans look for things the government ought not to do. And on Saturday mornings, the wrong hero watches Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Where Are You? Now, some have called me obese, but I am not fat. I am just pathologically hefty. Now, if, as the millennium approaches, if we are in fact facing Armageddon, then I say, at least, let it be a feel-good kind of Armageddon. Well, at this point, I'd like to leak some bad news about my campaign. I appear to be losing. The good news is I'm still chipper, upbeat, and husky, kind of like Drew Carey. Now, if elected president, I promise to legalize aggressive panhandling near automatic teller machines. That's right, I promise to legalize aggressive panhandling near automatic teller machines. If I'm not elected president, I'll probably go back to my old job, aggressive panhandling near automatic teller machines. Now, my trademark in this race is my genial brutality. You know, if Genghis Khan were alive today, he'd probably vote for me. Though, then again, he might vote for Dole since apparently they went to high school together. Now, when people ask what I stand for, I say, it sure beats sitting. It has been said that he who loves mankind also loves medicine. Well, I don't love mankind, but I sure do love my medicine. By cracky. I must give credit where credit is due and mention that Ross Perot has succeeded in building a party that's bigger than himself. Of course, there's very little that isn't bigger than Ross Perot. I hope in this race to give the electorate what it craves. spectacular nothingness. And it looks as though I'm beginning to get my wish. Now, never fear, I'm not worried about charisma or posterity. Shucks, I can't even spell them. To quote Bill Graham, I guess I'm just trying to do the Lord's work in the devil's city. You know, people often ask me just how bad a place is Washington, D.C. And I tell them, well, sir, if you saw the devil tethered to Washington, D.C., you just turn away and say, poor brute. Well, I think I can be principled when necessary. After all, to protect us all, we must sometimes vote for the worst of us. If I'm elected, I promise to try to live up to my reputation as the worst of us. In this race, I live by 3 watchwords: age before beauty, men before monkeys, and the dirt before the broom. Now, when I die and go to heaven and meet our Savior face to face, the first thing I'll say to him, I think, is, howdy, Master Jesus. How's your paw? Now, I do have my flaws. I have to make up my mind whether to be indecisive or not. Years ago, I wouldn't have been allowed to run for president, but nowadays, people have a more sophisticated understanding of mental health. You know, my mental health is actually beyond dispute. To quote the dying words of the Emperor Vespasian, ut puto Deus fio, I think I am becoming a god. But don't compare me to an emperor. Just call me one of the oligarchs of the anti-bourgeoisie. You know, I'd really like to run a principled race, but it would be political suicide. By the way, everyone says that I'm at the center of a paranoid and delusional universe, or at least that's what the voices tell me. But no matter how this race turns out, don't worry. The cute dog will survive. I promise you. Come here. Come here. Come here, Vice President Mona. Come here. Come here. Come over here. She puked on the rug. I had to clean it up. Come here. Come here. But I will spare you that particular spectacle. I mean, entertainment is one thing, but that's just a little too much. You know, you can always tell when I'm going to say something unpleasant because every time I say something unpleasant, there's a twinkle in my eye, which you're probably pretty sick of by now unless I miss my bet. As the old saying goes, there's a certain drunk in Providence who looks after fools. Or, to quote Moisey Ostrogorsky concerning our presidential nominating procedures, God takes care of drunkards, little children, and the United States. Words which I will have inscribed upon the presidential seal as my first act in taking office. I'd like to say this. I really do have something in common with my opponents, namely the fierce desire to administer the goodies that come with unlimited power. Now, some say that on a lot of the issues, the traditional labels of liberal and conservative no longer apply. I say that on a lot of the issues, the traditional stereotypes of sane and insane no longer apply.
either. Well, I may be only fitfully sane, but even a stopped clock is right twice a day. Look at it this way. If one of my opponents is an old crab and the other is a bloated jellyfish, then think of me as a hungry jackal. Now, I promise that if elected, the official drink of the United States will, by my decree, be the original Crazy Horse malt liquor, brought to you by the Arizona Brewing Company. And if elected as your president, I promise that in our schools we will teach anti-social sciences to every student. I promise that my Secretary of Defense will be G.I. Joe, a dummy with no penis. By the way, here's an interesting statistic. America spends almost $300 billion a year preparing for war. And yet, some rascals still insist that there's no such thing as progress. Well, right now, in the words of Edward Dorn, I would like to address some of my constituents. White rock faces, four-wheelers, Slim Jim peelers, big dealers, teased hair squealers, tractor hat stranglers, drive-up drinkers, mobile snorters, pass on the right siders, and mega rednecks. I salute you. And remember, too, every criminal, every gambler, every thug, every libertine, every girl ruiner, every home wrecker, every dope peddler, every moonshiner, every crooked politician, every shyster lawyer, every brothel madam, every prostitute, all are on my side. For I am a glutton for the limelight. Actually, I am a glutton, period, but I am a glutton for the limelight. And that's really why I am running. Oh, and also because it's my duty. Now, some have said that I don't have a chance to win this race, but I specialize in coming back from the dead. Of course, you could say the same thing about Frankenstein. Let me say this. I move faster than the speed of light because I'm afraid of the dark. And I am in love with the spotlights because I'm afraid of my own shadow. And let me also say this. I like to do things the hard way. Not because it's an added challenge, but because that's usually the wrong way. Well, if I don't win this race, I hear that the bacteria on Mars are looking for a leader. That's for the Dole voters out there, in case you're missing them. I'll tell you what. I'll make my opponents run like scalded dogs because I'm as strong as an acre of garlic and I'm in the high cotton now. Whatever the hell that means. Well, ask yourself this. Why wasn't Jimmy Carter at the Democratic National Convention? Well, I'll tell you how that scenario panned out. Bill Clinton called him up 1 minute to midnight, the night before the convention, and said, "Hello, Jimmy? Would you like to come to the Democratic National Convention?
Well, you know, Bill, kind of short notice. I don't think I can. Okay, bye now. Right? And then Jimmy calls him right back and says, you know, Bill, I've been reconsidering. Maybe I will come to the Democratic National Convention. And Bill goes, I'm not here. Bye now. This isn't me. Yeah, you don't win the town. Bye now. Hangs up the phone. So that's the story of why Jimmy Carter was not at the Democratic National Convention. Now let's see, do I have a smart aleck comment to make about the Republican National Convention? Well, you know, I kept on wondering when Bob Dole's facade would crack, you know, like you go, I would like to build a bridge to the our lights, bright lights hurt Bob Dole. You know, I kept on expecting him to slip into his Frankenstein mode there. And Ross Perot. I wonder what kind of speech he gave to his convention, you know. Like, well, as my old friend Harry Truman said before he was abducted by space aliens at my daughter's wedding, if you can't stand the heat, stay away from the sun. You know, I'm just wondering. Oh, by the way, did you know that Billy Carter is allergic to peanuts? Mighty suspicious. I don't like this. Well, after this election, I think I'll join my colleague, Dan Quayle, and take a teaching job at the Thunderbird American Graduate School of International Management in Arizona. Of course, if I lose, I'll probably make other plans. Now, I may look like I'm talking with a mouthful of food, but either it's because my face is puffy because of lack of sleep, or because I am talking with a mouthful of food. Well, I guess it's time to wind this down. You know, if nothing else, I learned something extremely valuable from this race, this presidential race. I learned one valuable lesson from this presidential race. The 11 o'clock news is not a democracy. So don't expect to see me on it anytime soon. Well, that's 6 minutes to go. Now I'd like to share with you some of the wit and wisdom of our elected president, Bill Clinton. Whoa, mama! No! Oh, you idiot! Well, I say this. If elected president, let me serve notice to all you gamblers, traffickers in illegal goods, thieves, brawlers, and ex-convicts. You're all in for the time of your lives. Now, some say I am frustrated and angry. If that is so, it is because I have nothing to be frustrated or angry about. Let me tell you a little story. You know, in the 50s, it was the Cold War and all that stuff, and then people started protesting nuclear weapons and stuff, and in the 60s it was civil rights, and then later on it was Vietnam, and in the 70s there was apartheid and you know, nuclear power plants and things like that. And well, in the 80s, you know, it was the whole Reagan era, Jesse Helms, all those people, and you know, and there was a lot of protest about it. But now, really, there's nothing for us, nothing left for us to protest against, except the fact that, you know, we're all getting a little fat and kind of overweight. But I mean, you can't really. Can you picture it marching on Washington, going down with mayonnaise, no more eggs, no more eggs? You know, it somehow it just doesn't seem, you know, very inspiring, and it's not something that people can all get together around. So that's what I mean when I say that I'm angry because there's nothing really to be frustrated or angry about. There's nothing really left to protest. So, anyway, you know, people say that I'm a crackpot just because in 1992 I campaigned for president in a Superman costume. Well, you know, actually they're wrong. I campaigned in a Batman costume, all right? All right? Anyway, here is my final promise. If elected president, I will adopt a reform they have already tried with great success in Russia. Factories will pay their workers in vodka instead of cash. That way, you know, it eliminates the middleman, the tavern owner. A guy won't have to go into a tavern to get cash his salary check, you know, because you know, he'll get paid directly in booze, and won't have to squander his paycheck in a tavern and with a 300% markup on the drinks, you know. Anyway, in this race, I promise that I will not talk about matching funds because basically I'm not eligible for them. And I will promise that I will not give any more speeches on television until the next one, which is next week, because my fat face looks terrible on television. You know, it doesn't look too hot on the radio either, for that matter. Now, to conclude, I promise you this. I don't want to change the world. I just want to rule it. Now, people have alleged that I am vindictive. I can assure them that I will not abide this blood libel. And let me assure you of one more thing. I cannot be bought, but I can be rented. And let me remind you, I may be an illegal outer space alien, but I do the work that no one else will do. To conclude then, someday I hope to see an America in which all my ideas have been adopted. An America with no ideas, for I have no ideas. And with that, let us draw the curtain on this, my final speech on this topic, until the next one, next week at 9 o'clock, Tuesday, November 5th, Election Day. Let me say once again, let us never fear to negotiate. Let us never negotiate at all. Let us simply say to one another, I'm right, you're wrong, therefore, shut up. Shut your steaming trap. Cram it, clown. Shut your stinking pie hole. However, even if you are wrong, I am wrong too, for I am the wrong hero, the Republic's nemesis, and for that reason, this is the Republic in peril. Good night. Be sure to tune in next week as the wrong hero brings you his final campaign speech of the election season, entitled The Republic's Nemesis. This has been the wrong hero with his presentation, The Republic in Peril. You are tuned to Cafe Cabaret. Cafe Cabaret is broadcast every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. on Channel 55 in Cambridge on Cambridge Community Television. If you'd like a transcript, a written transcript of the previous speech, send $5 to The Wrong Hero, care of Cambridge Community Television, Central Square, Cambridge, Massachusetts, 02139. You may or may not actually get a written transcript of the speech. Come to think of it, I should charge more than that, because it'll cost me at least $4 to copy it, plus the postage is probably another $1.60. I'm actually losing money on the deal. Send $6 to get a written transcript of The Wrong Heroes. No, send $10, $20. I think That's a pretty fair profit. 300% I think that's a pretty fair profit. Send $20, and maybe I'll send you a transcript. You lousy bum, stinking shitheel. Just do it, and make it a postal check, a postal money. No, make it cash. Stuff cash in a stinking envelope. Send it to me. For no reason. You don't get a transcript. Just send it.